Miking a drum set should be a difficult task as there are so many different sound sources, but hopefully in this video I can demonstrate to you some of the techniques I use to get my drum sound. Now these are personal preferences, but I hope these help anybody looking to mic up their own drum kit. First off, we can go over what type of microphones I use. These are known as pencil condensers, and I use them for my overhead to capture the bright, harmonic, and frequencies of the cymbals. These are known as pencil condensers, or they are also small diaphragm condenser microphones. This is my Audits D4, and it does a great job of picking up the low end of my drum kit. I normally use it to mic my floor tom and my bass drum. This Audits D1 is a really good microphone to pick up any sort of percussive sound. It picks up a lot of good mid-range frequencies and gives it a great sound. The Audits D2s are more for toms. Again, anything percussive this microphone will pick up and it'll sound really good. It has a little bit of a brighter frequencies than the D4. But yeah, these are my drum microphones that I will be showing us how to set up. The other microphone I use to mic my drum kit is for my snare drum. And the snare drum is probably one of the more important parts of my drum kit, so I want it to be a really good quality microphone. This is a Shure SM57. This is a unidirectional dynamic microphone, and it is one of the industry standards, and it gives everything a great consistent sound. Now, setting up this microphone, I like to have it facing the center of my drum head, about 2 fingers away from the rim, so I give it some space. Now, pointing the microphone, I always want it to go to the center for the nice warm frequencies. If I point it closer to the rim, it'll give it some more bright, harmonic, airier overtones, and you can point it away and get more of the general area of the sound. Up next is my high tom. Now, this is the higher pitch tom, so I'm using the Audits D2. Again, pointing it right at the center of the drum head so I can get as much warm tone as possible. I don't want that much overtone on my drum sound because I don't think it sounds that great. I want a full warm body. I don't want too much ringiness from my toms. So this is why I get the drum mic pretty close to the drum head. You can get it as far away as you want, but then that's opening up your microphone for bleed from other instruments. Again, we're trying to single out this one drum in particular. So I go 2 fingers apart, make sure it's pointed directly at the center, and yeah, I try to set it up like that so we don't get as much bleed from the cymbals, from the snare drum, from the hi-hat around it. But be sure to experiment with what sounds good for your preference, for your musical ear, and trust your instincts. I am using the Audits D4 microphone on my floor tom so I can capture more of the low end harmonic frequencies that I can get out of this drum. Again, I want to get it closer to the center of the head as much as I can. I also want to be cognizant of the drummer, make sure that these microphones are not in his way because we do not want him hitting our expensive microphone equipment. I've been experimenting with putting it closer to the rim and a little bit further away. Different angles maybe a little bit closer to the right or further away, just so I don't capture all of the bleed. Now moving over to the bass drum, I am using a Audio-Technica condenser microphone, and this is great for picking up the punch and the low end of my bass drum. Now this microphone is normally used for vocals, but I found it really interesting on my bass drum as it picks up some really cool harmonics. I like to get the snap of the beater hitting the drum head, so this microphone is perfect for that. I do about a cowabunga in between my bass head and my microphone to get the distance. You can always move it closer, you can always move it further away. More towards the rim will give you a little bit more overtones. If you angle it downwards, you can get more of the vibrancy of the shell. If you put the microphone in the port of the drum head, you can get a lot more low end, a lot more force behind it because there's more air going to be captured by that microphone. But mess around, experiment with what you believe sounds good. This is what I've been doing for a while now. On the inside of my bass drum, if I ever had the chance, I would take my Audits D1, slide it inside the bass drum hole, and try to get it as close as I can to those bass drum beaters way in the back. I'm trying to angle it right there so I can capture the aggressiveness of the sound and the actual punch of it. So I'll take my microphone, move my microphone stand around a little bit, try to slide it all the way through this porthole. And sometimes the drummers don't have one, but if you're fortunate enough to have a hole in your bass drum and you have the microphone to mic it up, I would suggest doing so. It gives you that much more control over the sound that you are getting. If I fidget the microphone more towards the bass drum, I'm going to get a more aggressive sound. If I turn it towards the shell of the drum, I will get more of the warm overtones of the drum. If that's what you're going for and you want a nice, warm, sustained sound, turn your microphones more towards the wood. The wood is what's vibrating and what can give it its nice, warm qualities. But for me, I want a little bit more punch. I place it towards my beaters. And this is what I am looking for on the other side of the bass drum. This is where my bass drum beaters strike the head, and as you can see, the microphone in the back is going to be picking up all of that responsiveness and that attack, and that's exactly what I'm going for in my bass drum sound. Another cool mic placement that I have is my room mic. I use the Audio Technica sometimes to capture the room that I'm in, and I place it a couple feet behind my drum set. I place it pointing at the center of my drums, so I'm trying to capture the snare drum and the bass drum primarily. That is my main meat and potatoes of my drum set, so that's what I want to be heard the best and to come across. You can also raise it up to capture more airiness, more ambience of the cymbals, more space. If you get it closer to the ground, you will get more low end from the kick drum. Again, experiment with bringing it closer, bringing it further away, maybe put it in a different corner of the room. But for me, this is what I've done. I've moved it around. I've moved it forward. I like it kind of close to my wooden cabinet because I've noticed the wood in my room definitely makes a difference in my overall sound. One of the more complicated parts of miking a drum set can be the overheads. Now, this is your overall stereo image. I like to have one on my left capturing the left side of my kit and one on the right capturing the right. So if I ever need to pan them and get a stereo image, I totally can. I use about an aux cord to make sure that my microphones are in phase. And what phase means is that making sure the sound hits the microphones at the same time. If I have two microphones above me and they're both capturing sounds at different times, it's going to be really hard to line up everything. It's all personal preference, and what I do might not work for you, but these are some general tips and tricks on how to make your drums sound good. And yeah, here is a video of me playing to a track so you can hear my miking techniques and my drums in action. Thank you.